Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Great Rabbino. We have a really cool interview today because we have a father and son, which we have done in the past with the Tippets, but today we have the Hertzes, Steve Hertz and Darren Hertz, different sports, respectively. Steve was on his way to a Hall of Fame baseball career, right?
If you say so.
Okay, and Darren's on his way to a collegiate basketball coaching Hall of Fame career. I have Steve and Darren Hertz. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing well.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So where are you guys right now? So Steve, I'm assuming at home, but which state, country, where are you located?
I'm at home in Miami, Florida.
Wonderful. And Darren, I'm assuming that's not the real stadium.
No, not in the real stadium today, but I'm in my home in the basement here in Dayton, Ohio. And Wonderful. It's good to see my dad in his home where I grew up in. They've been in that home for a long time. So that's where I grew up.
Amazing. Oh, so right. So let's talk about that. So you were quite the basketball player in high school, and then you spent 19 years at Florida, won 2 national championships with Billy Donovan. Tell us a little bit about how you got started and what led you to college coaching.
Yeah, so, to be honest, everything really goes back to my dad, just growing up in a, family with sports and having your dad as a coach. I learned a lot at a young age, just what went into it. But at the end of the day, I went away to the University of Florida to go to school. Was just a regular student there at the time. And, got to that point where it's like trying to figure out what you're going to do. And I wanted to get into coaching. My love was basketball. And once again, a lot, like I said, it goes back to my dad, just some of the relationships he had through all his years in sports. He was friendly with the late, great Shaky Rodriguez, who was a legendary high school coach in Miami, also coached college ball. And you'll like this, Jeremy, just, the small world of sports and basketball. Shaky was the best man in my current boss's, Anthony Grant's, wedding. And so that's kind of how it all started. My dad, through Shaky, was able to give Anthony a call. Anthony was an assistant coach at Florida who had just gotten there with Billy Donovan. And just kind of, to be honest, very lucky to get my foot in the door that way, and had the opportunity to work with tremendous coaches, but better people at a young age. Had a huge impact on me. And, again, it was my alma mater. I was working for a Hall of Famer. And so I ended up staying there, 19 years, the whole time Billy Donovan was there. And again, some full circle stuff. Here I am years later at Dayton working for Anthony Grant.
We're big Billy Donovan fans right now in Chicago, because of Joakim Noah, who was obviously a legendary player for the Bulls, and now he's here. So, and they're doing well. So it's a long time since we've said the Bulls are playing well. So that's awesome. So Steve, you got Darren into sports, but your sport was baseball. You played in the major leagues. I looked this up. By the way, I have every Jewish rookie baseball card, by the way.
No kidding.
There you go. So you played 5 games, 4 bats, 2 runs. I bet statistically that's one of the best ever to score a run every other at bat. What was your feeling? So baseball was a big part of your life. What did you do after the game?
After I finished playing ball?
Yeah.
Well, I'd gone to the University of Miami 1 semester a year and got my degree. It took 8 years to do it, going 1 semester and playing ball. And I always wanted to get into coaching. And I could see I wasn't going any further at about 24 years old, and was finishing up my degree, and was lucky enough to get a high school coaching job at 24. And so I took that, as opposed to staying in pro ball. As the last year I was there, I was a player coach. So I got some experience in both areas, and just wanted to do it. So it turned out, and I started coaching in 1970 at Coral Park High School.
And when Darren told you he was more into basketball and he wasn't into baseball, were you devastated?
No. Again, as far as sports go, and he was a sports guy, and he was a terrific baseball player. I don't know if he remembers, he was very good. But he loved basketball. He just did. And whatever his passion was, whatever he wanted to do, I'm 100% behind him. And what he has done with basketball, not only in high school, a terrific player. And of course, like he said, he went to the University of Florida when Billy Donovan came, and got an opportunity to be a part of that organization. And from that time, as you said, 19 years with Billy Donovan, a couple at Illinois, and then in the last 4 years at Dayton, he's had a marvelous run. And again, basketball wise, win wise, it's been marvelous. But along with that, the quality of coaches that he's been under, bar none, super, just as good as it could get. And a lot of them were a mentor to him. And he's, I think he's a great coach. I just do, because he's got so much talent in so many areas. And those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, he's quelling, Darren. That's a good thing. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you move from, Darren, you moved from Florida, where you are almost in not your whole run, but potentially a national title is not too far off every year. And certainly win two, I think 4 Final Fours. You obviously had, a coach on one of the, I think it's fair to say, one of the greatest college basketball teams, obviously, minus the John Wooden teams, right? If you minus that, because they're in a league of their own, really one of the greatest teams. I mean, they, just deep, and everyone played, and you didn't have it wasn't just one guy taking over, but really great teams. And then you go to Illinois, and I actually was a John Gross fan. We just never got the recruiting. I didn't think his in-game coaching. So now you've gone from this mega program. Illinois is probably, in comparison at the time, just a short down, not obviously a major program. They've been very good the last couple of years. What is that like, where you go from the culture is just like, we may win a national title all the time, to we got to figure out what this team looks like under Coach Gross?
Yeah, I think that, well, first off, it was actually a great experience for me. And like I said before, I may have stayed at Florida. I might still be at Florida had Coach Donovan never left. And you can get comfortable sometimes in those situations. Like I said, I had a lot there, being in my alma mater, where I met my wife, where we had our 2 kids. Great place to live. There was a lot of positives, obviously, there at Florida. But sometimes, and maybe you don't realize it at the time, Jeremy, but leaving ended up being one of the best things to happen to me personally, because it kind of forced me to get out of my comfort zone. And again, sometimes you don't realize it at the time, but I mean, you talk about getting out of your comfort zone. I'd lived in Florida my whole life. So all of a sudden I had to buy some different clothes, own a winter coat, and go join a program that I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know any of the people real well. But I was fortunate because, like you just mentioned, John Gross is a great human being, great coach as well, and welcomed me and my family with open arms. When we got there, it was a tough situation. There was a lot of things that were kind of working against us at that time. But nonetheless, it was a hell of a learning experience for me. Sometimes you start to think, man, not that it was ever easy. I don't want to ever say that, because it wasn't. I don't think people realize how hard it was at Florida to do what Coach Donovan and staff did all those years. But like you said, there was a lot of winning, and all of a sudden you realize, man, just how hard this is. So being at Illinois was a great learning experience for me. And I think it made me better as a coach, but also just better as a person dealing with a lot of adversity.
So I want to switch gears to Dad. So you got a chance to manage during the single year that they had Major League Baseball in Israel.
Yeah.
You got assigned to Tel Aviv Lightning, which, by the way, is probably the best gig of, I mean, you got to be Tel Aviv is like a big deal, you know. The Modine Miracle doesn't have the same sort of cachet as the Tel Aviv Lightning. No offense to my buddy Ron Bloomberg. So tell me a little bit about what that experience is like from you. I've spoken to Art Shamsky and Ron Bloomberg about it, and I'm very close with all the people involved, Peter Kors and all the make Israel baseball tick. But this was sort of the catalyst as a league that didn't succeed long term, but certainly had a massive impact on the culture. So what was that like for you, and coming back to sort of coaching many years later?
Probably one of the best experiences of my life, when I was contacted about managing one of the teams in Israel. You know, it was hard to believe. Baseball in Israel? I mean, nobody does that. But a fellow from Boston who was a baker decided to bring baseball to Israel just for the people there, to with all the strife and adversity that Israel faces. He thought that it would be great to bring the sport there at a professional level. And he did. And he hired 6 managers, like you say, Shamsky, Bloomberg, Kenny Holtzman was one of the other ones, and a couple more. And it was just a fabulous experience in the fact that he put together a 45-game schedule, had 3 different venues to play these games. And it was just terrific. We played every day except Friday, Saturday. And it was just phenomenal. Nobody could have described what we went through and what we got out of that. Just a fabulous summer doing that. I hoped it would have gone on, but it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't get enough to fund it again for the following year. Some people tried to do it, but it just couldn't be done. They needed a lot more money, and it kind of folded. But if they could have kept that going, it's just something special that we were lucky to be involved with.
Yeah, I think in the future there is. I mean, I've spoken to the coaches like Eric Holtz. I did an interview with him, and he talks about how you're really changing culture. You're convincing people really that like this is a very important thing to who they are, and it just takes time. So, you know, you do a seminar here, maybe you get 12 kids. You do a seminar here, you get 50 kids. You go to the Olympics, you get 150 kids. You know, and as that generation gets older, then you have some homegrown talent to be able to put on the leagues, and they're building stadiums. I want to switch gears to Dayton. Tell us, Darren, about the upcoming season, and what to expect from the Flyers, and what your role is today. You know, what are you doing on a daily basis in September when the season doesn't start till November, first week of November, something like that? Can Dayton make the Final Four? Hey, you're
Sorry about that. I had it on mute. Well, I won't jump to that quite yet, but yeah, a couple things. One would be, you know, like you said, we just hit September. We're able to work with our guys a limited amount of time. You only allow 4 hours a week this time of year. So we're practicing 3 or 4 days a week for about an hour. We'll start official practice at the end of September. September, I think 9th, this coming Friday, is the first day of this year, the new school year, where you're allowed to get on the road recruiting. So we'll hit the road recruiting hard over the next month or two. And, you know, that sometimes that slows down a little bit once you get into November and your games start. So, you know, you just asked, you know, within my role, those are probably the 2 biggest things, is just the everyday coaching on the floor with your team, the recruiting piece, you know, and then when you get into the season, obviously a lot of scouting of opponents. You know, just one parallel maybe between our team this upcoming year and the Florida teams that you mentioned. You know, last year we were the youngest team in all of college basketball. Out of 358 teams, we were the youngest, and it probably showed a little bit early in the season last year, trying to figure it out a little bit. I thought the last 2 to 3 months of the season, though, we were playing extremely well. Just, you know, had a big uphill battle with the way we started. So we ended the season well. We returned the majority of our players, the core group, and really, really like our team. I'm excited about going into this season. We think we have a chance to do some special things with this group. It's a talented group. It's also a very connected group. I think the challenge is going to be maybe a little bit similar to what we went through at Florida. And I always got to bring that up a little bit. Obviously some special memories. That Florida team in 06 and 07 is the last team to go back to back in college basketball, which probably will happen at some point, but I don't know how soon. It's hard, especially these days, to do that back to back. But that team was, I think, ranked like 75th in the country going into 06, and zero expectation, and won a national championship. And then the following year, #1 preseason, every expectation, everybody coming after you, and had to do it night in, night out, which was extremely difficult. And that team was able to persevere through that. We don't have that kind of target on us going into this season, but I think people know that we have a chance to be a pretty good team. And so for our team, we need to be able to handle that expectation now that a lot of people are, kind of picking us at the top of our league, kind of a fringe top 25 team to start the season. It's the same group that, last year didn't quite do it. So we're excited, but we got a lot of work ahead of us.
So let's talk a little bit about father-son, right? Both involved in sports. How often do you, and I know the life of a basketball coach in college, right? It's why I believe you see a lot of people, the second they get the chance to go to the pros, they do, because you don't have the same calendar season. And John Shire from around here was just in town. And I was like, oh, it's really nice they gave him one day off, especially replacing Krzyzewski. And I assume he was in town recruiting, right? So, but he was seen around. So, how often do you get to go down to Miami and be with dad? Dad, do you have a subscription to watch all of Dayton's games? Like, how do you guys bond over, are you breaking this down with him, Darren, after, and getting dad's advice? How does this work in terms of the competitiveness, the love, because Darren, one of the things you said to me was you want your dad to be honest with you, which I loved, of course. I mean, I would have loved to interview both of you. I'm a Jewish sports fan, maybe the biggest in the world. So this is special to me. So talk to me about that father-son relationship.
Dad, you want to go first?
I can do that. Well, again, it started when he was playing basketball, at a younger age, and we followed him all through like a JCC playing, high school playing, and of course going to the University of Florida. And we get as many games as we can, subscribing to what we can get on TV when they're playing in Dayton or anywhere else, and follow it as best I can. I try to see every game that they play. And then sometimes I'll ask Darren, what's the scouting report on the team coming up? What can you tell me to look for? Things like that. And it makes the game a little more objective to me to look for those things. So, and again, after the game, win or lose, we talk about the game some, and then it's on to the next game. But it's a lot of fun to follow this and to follow my son doing what he's doing.
Wonderful. Darren?
Yeah, no, I mean, it goes back to, like I said, growing up, just being around it. There was always that bond. I was always excited to see how his teams every single night, is dad going to walk in the door happy or not quite as happy, when your team's winning or losing. So I was around that at a young age. And here we are today. I know he watches pretty much every game, which, by the way, every game, recruiting pitch, every Dayton game is on TV one way or another. So ESPN Plus or something. So, I know he watches them, and I know he cares a lot, and he'll, he's a coach. So he's going to question me on why we did this or why we did that, or what do you think on this? Or can you get another 7-footer in recruiting? So, but we enjoy that. I always look forward to that after the game, whether it's, maybe that night, but sometimes I got to at least sleep on it. But usually that next day we'll talk about the previous night, and then just like you said, moving forward. It's a great bond though.
Wonderful. I love it. I want to thank you both. This was great. Great to hear your stories. Let's go Flyers, right? And of course the memory of the Tel Aviv Lightning, right? I want to thank you both for your time, and don't be strangers.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Jeremy, I
anytime.
appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Like to do it again sometime.
Right. Thank you so much, Rabbi. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.